Hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of The Emboldened Entrepreneur. This week, I have my friend Sarah Harkleroad with us today with Dayor Design. Sarah, did I say your last name right?
You did. Yep,
Okay,
thanks, sweetie.
good. She is with Dayor Design and just one of the most talented graphic design artists I know. And so I'm excited for you guys to get to hear from her, share about her experience. And we're going to be talking all things branding today because that is such a crucial aspect to a successful business. And so, Sarah, I'll let you take it from here. If you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about you and just kind of your journey to this point and what you're up to now with Dayor.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Whitney. Great to catch up with you and to chat branding for a little bit here. So yeah, as you mentioned, I'm the co-founder. I'm also the brand strategist here at Dayward Design. My husband Paul and I started the company about almost 15 years ago. We're coming up on 15 years in June, which is crazy. So I was doing freelance graphic design at the time. He had just finished law school, and he said we need to turn this into a business. So we need to register for an LLC. So it was like just in the middle of the afternoon, he said, I'm submitting the paperwork. What are we naming the business? And as somebody who likes time to process and think through things, uh, we were like, okay, where do we want to go with the name? We want to do something with our last name, but Harkle Road, it's hard to say, hard to spell. And so we ended up doing Dayor Design. So we took the word road and just spelled it backwards. So it kind of tied into our name, to our last name really nicely. So that's how we arrived at Dayor Design. So we had the business name. I was still mostly, it was just me for the first few years, just doing design, friends and family projects, a lot of branding, logos. That's what I absolutely love. And so we started off doing that. He had a day job as an attorney, and he was just kind of supporting on the business side of things for those first few years. But first, I would just do the logos, and that's really where I wanted to camp out. But I got really tired of seeing our clients. I would design their logo, we give them their logo package, and then I'd go check out their website a few months later that they had somebody else do. And I'm like, they didn't use the right colors, they didn't use the right fonts, the logo is like skewed, it's not, they're using the wrong version for the wrong area. And so I kind of I got tired of seeing that or frustrated with seeing that. So I'm like, that's it. We're designing websites too. And so then we started doing websites for clients. So we did the logo design, then we started doing the websites, and that worked pretty well. That's when we started to grow the team. We added some web developers, copywriters, all the things I'm not good at. And we did that for a few years and kind of camped out there. So logos and websites. But we would have clients come back to us like a few months later after their site launched, and they would say like, well, now how do I get people to my website? Like, why aren't I on page 1 of Google? Or how can I make sure people can find me? And so I was like, I kind of feel like we're selling for the ones who really want to grow their business. It felt like we were selling them like the car without the wheels. Like it was like, here's a great looking car, but good luck if you want to take it anywhere. And so that's when we started getting into marketing. I was just like, I think we can best help our clients by hitting all three of those, checking all three of those boxes for them: logo design, website design, marketing. And that way we can that's where we really do our best work, Whitney, when we can do like comprehensive services for the clients, take them all the way through that process. And so I would love to say we had a great plan when we started. We did not at all. I just knew I liked to design and I like small business, and my husband comes from a small business family. And so that's how we kind of evolved into our services that we do now. So that's probably more information than you want at this point, but hopefully that's helpful.
That's great. I feel like as you were saying that of like how it evolves,
Yeah,
the quote that if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. It's like
exactly.
if you like try to map it out, I've tried to do
Uh-huh.
this. You like map it
Okay.
out precisely,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh no, that's not how this goes. Stop controlling. Let me like
Yes,
just read this. And so I love the natural progression over the 15 years of being able to kind of expand services
for sure.
and serve in a different way. There, as you were talking about that, so define marketing. So marketing is such a
Mhm.
broad term. I know you guys offer multiple sections of marketing support, but what does that look like?
Yeah, so really it's just how do we air brand in front of your target market? And so for different clients that looks like different things just depending on the industry based on how competitive their location is. But typically once we get through a website launch, we transition to marketing mode for our clients. And so a few that like kind of standby tools that we use there is going to be like social media management. We do a little bit like some meta ads, LinkedIn ads there. We also do just other paid ads management in terms of Google Ads. content creation. So think of like blog writing, newsletter creation, email marketing, and then also just some traditional marketing as well. I don't want to like underestimate the value of some of that. Just depending on some industries, some will respond better to traditional marketing. So you think about like print marketing, like postcards, signage, things like that as well. So there's a lot there. I feel like our marketing services, kind of our suite of services, is always evolving. That like branding, you got this nice tried and true timeless design principles. It's like you can camp out there all day long, which is fun. Marketing, it's exactly the opposite. Like you have to stay on top of like where's the industry going? AI obviously is affecting how people find businesses. Uh, we used to do more traditional SEO or search engine optimization. Now we're optimizing for AI as well. So the marketing services, I hold those very loosely. Like the goal is just how do we help clients grow their business? And so that's the goal. The tools will always continue to change, and that's just fine. We've learned to embrace that.
That's awesome. So I don't want you to give away any like trade secrets or
Hmm.
anything, but do you find different tactics resonate differently based on the size of a business or even the industry of business? Like the
Yeah.
different forms of like meta ads versus, SEO
Hmm.
content or AI. I think it's called GEO. Is that right? Like the
Yeah,
new.
that's kind of the term of the day. Yeah, generative engine optimization, or there's AEO, answer engine optimization. Yeah, yeah.
So how does that relate to different types of like stages of business and industries of business?
Hmm. Yeah, so first of all, like industries. So B2B versus B2C marketing is very different. So business to business or B2B, you're going to want to be more on LinkedIn. Like for us, LinkedIn's where it's at. We work with small businesses. It's like that's where our audience is. A lot of our clients are in that space as well. But let's say we work with like a lot of residential home remodelers or residential builders. Well, they're speaking directly to the homeowner, so they're B2C. And so they're going to be on Instagram or on Facebook. And so just kind of knowing where your audience is so important. I was talking with our marketing strategist just last week, and he was kind of saying like the positioning is just as important as the quality of the messaging or how good it looks, which kind of hurts the design side of me. I'm like, no, it matters how it looks above all things. But it's not true. You can do something that looks fantastic, but if you put it on the wrong platform, the wrong people are seeing it and it's not going to be effective. And so yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but we especially see a difference between B2B and B2C marketing. Um, and then some depending on the industry, how competitive the industry is, location, some of that comes into play as well.
Yeah, that all makes sense, and that's probably the hardest part is, like, figuring out how to niche down. Like, I've experienced this in my own business. We were talking pre-show of, like, trying to figure out, "Okay, where do I really wanna commit?" And then, like, make myself the subject matter expert in that space. Do you have any
Hmm.
advice for even that side? I know that's a
Yeah.
little maybe moving a little more into messaging and less into, like, the branding specific, but
Hmm. Hmm.
curious.
Yeah, so thinking that's one of the things when we start with clients, it's like we don't jump to design, we don't jump to strategy. First asking those questions, like who can you best help? Who are you passionate about helping? If you think of Jim Collins with Good to Great, like what's your hedgehog concept? What can you be the best at? Not what do you want to be the best at? What's always kind of been interesting to you, but what can you be the best at? And what are you passionate about? And then what's also going to make money? It's got to be able to sustain as a business as well. So really thinking through like helping our clients, just asking some of those questions as far as who's your target market, where are they, what are those services where you can best serve them. Even it's very tempting for businesses, especially new businesses or ones that are really trying to get established, to say, "We do everything." And when you do that, you kinda shoot yourself in the foot, like, you really wanna focus on, what's that one thing you wanna focus on? The other people, some of them will still find you. That's fine. Uh, I'll use us as an example. All of our marketing, all of our messaging is to small businesses. That's who we're passionate about helping, but 20% of our work is working with churches and nonprofit organizations. We don't talk to them in our marketing, but they find us anyways, and if we can help them, we do. But trying to focus on both the nonprofit and then the small business together kinda just dilutes the messaging for both, and we've just found we can best help small businesses, and that's really where our heart is. Even though we love it when we can work with the church and help them, we do. But really figuring out how you don't wanna talk to everybody. Who can you best help? Talk to them, start there, and then you can always expand from there if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, saying keeps floating in my head. Lately, it's taking up a lot of real estate of if you're
Mhm.
talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody, or at least nobody's
Exactly.
listening because it's too broad.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
part
Yep.
of creating the stickiness
Yeah.
is part of that is messaging, but part of that is just like a cohesive brand identity too, right? Like when
Mhm.
we think about Nike, all you have to do now is see a check mark and you're like, "Oh, that's Nike," or you hear
Mhm.
"Just do it," and it's like, "Okay." And I know
Mhm.
you are brilliant at design and being able to come up with that iconography that like really resonates and identifies that brand in a way that it can stand alone as an icon or as a logo design. So what advice would you give to people who are considering maybe they're launching a new business in the new year or refreshing some changes coming up? Like what advice would you give as far as like why having a cohesive brand is so important?
Yeah, so a few things there, and actually I'll step back. I might give you one unexpected answer for that. So
Bring it.
it's still true. I tell our clients all the time, it's easier to build your brand right from the very beginning than to go back and fix a bad brand. And so you would think that means like if you're starting a new business, you start day one with your logo design. In an ideal world, that's the way to do it. But so many small business owners, it's like you iterate, just like we iterated. Like if I had to guess 15 years ago what our services would be and who we'd be serving, I would be so far off, it's not even funny. And so, that's one of the mistakes that we see is where people get so excited about the branding side of things because it's so much fun to pick your colors and your fonts and your logo design and put it on everything, and it feels so official. Like, it's a really fun process, but you don't overinvest in that side of things on day 1 before you're self-aware as a business of who am I? Who am I helping? What are my services? How am I positioning my brand? Am I, a high-end luxury premium brand? Do I want to feel more like mid-market, more approachable? Do I want to feel playful or sophisticated or, lean more masculine or feminine and just my brand presentation? Like there's so many things that go into that, but knowing who your target market is and what your services are, that's what dictates all of those decisions with your brand. And so I always like it's always painful for me if I see somebody who like too early wants to invest in their brand, but I can tell they're still figuring out who they are. Uh it's like you're probably gonna have to do some reworks. As much as you love it, you're gonna have to do some reworks when you figure out who you're actually talking to here. And so I kinda say, like, prove out your business model for, a year, however long. Just start with something quick and easy and just get it going. Prove out your business model, establish some cash flow, and then come back and invest in your brand once you know who you're talking to and how you're addressing your market. So, I don't know if that's helpful at all.
Yeah. No, that's insanely helpful. Because I think when I started, I had this, like, block font of
Mhm,
the WM, and then the consulting was kind of frilly, and, it
mhm.
was I was looking
Yeah.
for something after working for other people that I felt like represented me, and I
Mhm.
was looking at me and not who my clients were, right? And
Yep.
so I got that feedback
Yeah.
from somebody that was wanting to hire me, and they were like, "I don't know, it feels kind of like." Course, I was doing operations and I've worked in marketing, and they were like, "It feels more like marketing frilly than like operations and serious." And
Yep.
they were like, it that just they couldn't get past that and they didn't hire me for it. And,
Mhm.
I was like, "Okay." And then I was doing workshops and other things and kind of shifting my brand around a little bit, playing with different like colors and other things. And I realized most people who were coming to me for workshops were women,
Mhm.
but the majority of my clients were men. And so I was like, "What is that?" But a lot of again, it was still keeping a similar color palette. I shifted it a little bit, and so that was
Mhm.
resonating with women, but the people who were actually hiring me were men. And so I had to look at, okay, if that's the case, I need to ditch some of the femininity of my brand and move it
Mhm.
to a more masculine brand
Yeah.
to identify who my client is and resonate with them. And so
Yep.
it's been an interesting process.
And that's one of the things, one of the mistakes that we see the most with clients. They kinda interject what are their personal preferences into their brand, like, "Oh, I've always loved this font," or "I just love," this color, or, these are designs that I like. That's wonderful. But if that's not gonna resonate with your target market, that should not be your brand. Like, use those colors to decorate your house, not to do not to do your brand. And so just kind of being aware of that, and that's what we try to bring the clients back to. It's like, let's be aware of your personal preferences. Let's, insert those where we can, where they make sense. But it's about what's going to work, like what's going to drive your business forward, what's going to resonate with your target market, what's going to attract the right people and repel the people who aren't a fit. And that's really where you want to go with your brand. It's not just about, what do I like, and, what would I like to see in there. Even for us, our industry is very like female driven in terms of like branding and design and kind of the creative side of things. And so we intentionally go very like gender neutral with our brand, where it's like we don't want to skew overly feminine, because I think people almost expect that with a creative agency. And we work with a lot of construction companies or engineering firms or technology, and it's like we love those clients. And I'm like, I don't want to go so feminine with our brand that we turn away our target market clients. And so again, kind of setting personal preferences aside, it's just what's going to be most effective for our business, and how do we help our clients kind of navigate that as well.
No, that's great. What are some other potential, like, pitfalls or, um, faux pas, for lack of better wording? Like, what are other things that you see entrepreneurs fall into when it comes to branding?
Yeah, so one, I think we see this a little bit less and less now. I think most businesses are aware of kind of the power of branding, but just kind of underestimating the power of like a strong brand to build like the instant credibility for your business. Like, it tells people, I take my business seriously and you should take it seriously too. And so that's one of the things, like, before people read one word on your website, before, they're looking at your social media, anything, like, if they can see just consistent, like, coloring and design styling and fonts, and it's like, "Okay, this is really well put together," it's like, "Okay, this is a legit business." And so that's one thing, is just, as you get established and kind of find your niche and where you're gonna focus, then saying, "Okay, now let me invest in my brand and really get that piece right," because it is something that it's either holding our business back or it's driving you forward. And so many times we work with clients who are fantastic at what they do, and they've been in the industry for years, but their brand's just a few steps behind, and it's like, "Oh, you do great work. Let us just bring that brand into alignment with that." And then it's really fun to see the effect that has on their business. So that's one thing. It's just kind of underestimating the power of strong branding. Um, I already mentioned prioritizing, like, personal design preferences, like, inserting those, so, that one, and then I mentioned too, just kinda over investing in, like, the professional, like, branding package right out of the gate. We Every once in a while, we have a client who's, like, a new business owner, but they've got their plan and they know exactly who they are. We just worked with a consultant in that space, and he was, like, super organized and super self-aware of, "Here's what I'm doing." It was really fun to work with him on his brand, but so many times as new businesses, it's just still kind of fluid and squishy, and so it feels like we're branding for, like, a moving target, where I'm just like, "Just take a little breather, get 6 to 12 months down the road, and then come back to us, and that's when we can help you better." So those are just a few things that we see that come up quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can even say for me, like, I was going from operations consulting
Yeah.
to, well, I went back to full-time employment for a little bit, but then back to, like, business coaching and entrepreneurship, and then it was like, "Okay, well, this is
Mhm.
fun. I don't feel like that's my calling," to now considering a different, moving into facilitation in the middle of that, and, like, now even something a little bit
Yeah.
different, more concrete. It's like there's been multiple iterations to
Mhm.
get to that place of,
Mhm.
"Okay, this is resonating for me,
Yeah.
and there's a market that exists," and
Yeah.
so to what you're saying, I'm
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, I could totally understand how that can be a big
Mhm.
miss if you don't have that clarity walking into it."
For sure. Yeah, start small, start focused, just kinda get feedback from your market, from your initial, like, your, first clients, getting feedback there, like, "Where was I helpful? What are the things that you really resonated with? Where do you feel like I added the most value for you?" Just getting some of that feedback really helps you become more self-aware as a business, because sometimes you're kinda too close to it to see that. And so getting that feedback from some clients is really helpful early on, just to really shape, where you wanna land in the marketplace.
So, what advice would you give to small bit I know we've already talked about,
Yeah.
like, potential pitfalls to avoid and really gaining that clarity, but, like, what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs or businesses as they're looking at next steps moving into the new year, um, customer service even. I know you guys do a
Mhm.
great job of how you deliver and you stay on top of
Thank you.
things. And so, I mean, just any advice you have for businesses who are looking to grow and take
Yeah.
this part of business seriously.
Yeah, once your business has a little bit of staying power to it, it's fine to start with the DIY. Like, I'm a proponent. DIY, Fiverr, Wix, those are your friends when you're just getting started. But then you need to kinda graduate beyond that and say, "Okay, now I'm ready to really mature, to a professional brand, website, online presence, a full, cohesive marketing strategy." And so I think there's some small businesses that kinda hold on to, like, that DIY mindset too long, where it's like you should be running your business, and you've got so many other, like, high payoff activities you can be doing instead of, like, posting your own social media or, just doing different things, trying to figure out how to, watching YouTube videos to update your website or, just whatever, different things like that. So it's like, you need to kinda graduate beyond the DIY mode once your business gets to a certain stage, and a lot of our clients, it's like they're too small to hire an in-house marketing person or team, like branding team, everything like that. They're too small to do that, but they're also too busy to do it all themselves, and it's like, that's where we come in. Like, that's where we can help, and you can get access to a full team of everything you need, designers, copywriters, web developers, ads managers. You get access to all of that without having to hire and manage all of those people, and so but just in terms of advice for clients where we see like they hold on to that DIY piece a little bit too long, or they just don't quite trust the process. Sometimes it's like they're used to being involved in it and we want to honor their expertise, obviously. And really it's a very collaborative process. But also kind of knowing the things they're great at and then just helping us kind of bottle up their expertise and then let us run with making sure that comes through nicely on the website, on the marketing, social media, everything like that. So that's one of the things I would say. Just don't stay in DIY mode for too long.
Yeah, no, that's a great one because I think it is very easy. And when you've been in the scrappy process for so long, starting
Yep.
out, it's easy to stay stuck in that, like, okay, well, I've learned all of this, I can do it. But
Mhm.
how much time am I wasting procrastinating, doing
Mhm.
these things that are taking me away from actually
Uh-huh.
your business, turning over deliverables, like
Yeah.
getting bottom line a lot further along because I'm
Mhm.
just sitting in the spiral of less important tactics.
Mhm. Yep.
Maybe not less important, but don't affect the bottom line quite as
Mhm.
much.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I like to ask this question all the time of what is a fear, limiting belief, obstacle, something you've had to overcome in your journey, or maybe that you're still working up against now? And how are you working through that? How have you overcome it? What tools would you give, maybe from your own experience to other people listening?
Yeah, so I put a little bit of thought into that. I think as an entrepreneur, like, the reason you start your own business is because you think you can do it better than everybody else. Like, you got, like, just a little bit of an attitude, like, in a good way. But when things get hard, when you get into that messy middle, that's where fear and doubt creeps in, and where it's like, "I don't know, is I stupid to go down this road? Why don't I just get a regular job?" All of those things that kinda come up, and then you're just bombarded, like, there's information everywhere, like, it's in your email inbox, it's, in your news feed, all the things that you should be doing, and that you're probably not doing well enough, and so it's so much information out there, it can just be overwhelming, really, and so that's where I would say, like, just learning, like, 1, if you truly feel called to be an entrepreneur, most people shouldn't do it, honestly, like, I would talk most people out of it, but if you truly feel called to be an entrepreneur and you're going down that road, like, stick it out, it's worth it. Focus, have some good friends, even just, like, peer business owners alongside you where you can just every once in a while be like, "This is really hard, right?" Like, "Yes," "but it's worth it. Let's keep going." And so just having those people in your life is really important when you get into kind of that messy middle and even just different seasons. I don't feel like you ever completely get out of it. Like I said, we're coming up on, like, 15 years in business, and I told Paul recently, I'm like, "Well, shoot, like, all the easy things have been done. It's only hard things left, and that's kind of what it feels like. And I'm like, okay, it just feels like you like graduate to the next level of difficulty, and it's like it's fun and it's rewarding, but it's also exhausting. And so just yeah, making sure you have good peer support around you is important. Learning to trust your team, which I think is one of the hardest things. And even for me, like at first it was just me in the day to day of the business for a few years. So it's like everything was my job and my business. And so that's been one of the hardest pieces of my kind of entrepreneurial journey is like, how do I equip and train and trust a team? And then it's been like so rewarding, but it was so hard, and I had so many doubts early on, like, I just don't know if I can do that, or they're not gonna do it right, or it's not gonna be how I want it, and it's like so that's been another piece of just really learning to trust other people and surrounding yourself with great people is, like, so important.
I love that because it is, I mean, you spend so much of like literal blood, sweat, and tears and like
Yeah.
sacrificing everything you've got for
Mhm.
this vision. And question, I mean, the amount of times I've been like, "Lord, are you sure? Are you sure this is still what you want from me? Like,
Mhm.
W-2 sounds real nice right about now,"
Yeah.
and he's, "Yeah, no, I'm not done. You gotta keep going,"
Mhm. Mhm.
that struggle is real, but you spend so much of your time and energy building it to then bring other people into it and say, I'm trusting this, and at the
Mhm.
end of the day, I'm still responsible and accountable for everything that
Mhm.
happens in this." Like, I could
Mhm.
see it be a really overwhelming feeling at times, but being
Yeah.
surrounded by like-minded people who can say like, "Nope, this is gonna be okay," and
Yeah.
I had somebody on the podcast that his fear was like, um it's the leveling up, like, the fear of success, and
Mhm.
it's always being that next level like you were talking about, and it is, like, you he kind of explained it as, like, this continual cycle of you have the imposter syndrome every time you try something new because it's new,
Mhm.
something bigger and greater and different, but then you reach a certain point where you're like, "Okay, I've got this," and then it's time to, like, level up, and so now you're in that success of, like, "Oh, now I have to step into a bigger playing field in the space I don't,"
Mhm.
comes the imposter syndrome again. It's just this
Yep. Yeah,
ongoing
it's a
cycle.
cycle. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, and just having friends to pull you through when when you're on the wrong side of that cycle is really important. So, yeah.
it's awesome. How would you suggest, like, finding those friends? Like, who have been most valuable for you? I know some of that's just, like, praying and asking God to bring them, but how have
Mhm.
you found that to most natural connection?
Yeah, so I feel like anytime I try to force it, it doesn't work. And even honestly, like, I'm not a huge fan of, like, networking groups or, like, we've done some paid groups, we've done some, like, just kinda, like, local networking groups. I don't feel like I find a lot of friendly people there where it's like you can kind of, chat it up over lunch or something like that. But then in terms of just like who's going to be in my corner when things are like hard, I don't feel like I've been successful with doing that. So, I think for us, it's honestly it's a lot of like our friends from church that own a small business where it's like we can just grab lunch and kind of chat about that. That's been really fun. Doing that. Even I mean, all of our clients are small businesses, and so it's kind of fun to just kind of hear like we get to look under the hood of their business and kind of chat with them about kind of some of the challenges and just to kind of talk shop a little bit, like, that's been really fun to be able to do that as well. So yeah, I feel like they come sometimes from the most unexpected places. And it kinda changes at different stages in the business. There's, different people that we can be more helpful to and ones that can be more helpful to us too, just kind of depending on what we're going through at that point. So yeah, that's probably not a real straightforward answer there, but, I wish I had a better, like, do this, this, and this, but I feel like God just kinda drops those people in at the right time when you need them. So,
So true, so true,
yeah.
and the fact of, like, when I stop trying to control it and not force
Mhm.
things is, like, when God's like, "Okay, here you go." Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
we quit white knuckling things, then your hands
Yeah.
are open to receive, and now I can do something with this. That's my
Yeah.
biggest problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and my thing too, like, I'm a big reader. Like, I love reading business books. Right now, reading Attraction, so, like, the whole EOS system. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. Um I feel like I think Michael Hyatt's a voice that I've listened to a lot along the way. I really respect him. I think he does a great job. on a number of levels. And so, and I think he even mentioned like your mentors don't always have to be like real people that you sit and have coffee with. It could be an author that you follow, and then you kind of follow them, whether they have a podcast or a blog or a newsletter, and where you're just kind of giving them an opportunity to speak into a facet of your business or your entrepreneurial journey. And so, that's the thing too. Sometimes if I'm like, I've got a specific problem I'm trying to solve, like sometimes I'll just like, let me read or reread this book or revisit what's this author, what's this person say about this, and just do some research there. And sometimes that can kind of help point me in the right direction or kind of get me over a hump as well. So yeah, it definitely takes on different shapes depending on kind of what I'm working through and kind of the season and the business that we're in.
Yeah, I love that. I think I get sometimes in my head too much on that side though, and I just get in
Oh
this like
yeah.
consumption mode and I'm like taking in all the things and then the imposter syndrome fires of like, well, there's no room for you. There's nothing creative. There's nothing left for you to bring to the
Hmm.
table.
Hmm.
Or it's I'm drowning out the creativity of what the Lord wants to give me by
Yeah.
trying to substitute it with all the things that I can grab hold of tangibly, you know?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there's definitely is an information overload.
yes.
Um, mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
ebooks, podcast, all the things, like, we can constantly be listening to other sources and making
mhm.
sure we have that balance, I guess, is a challenge for me of,
Yeah,
like, listen to other voices, but then make space to make sure I'm
mhm.
reattuning to the voice that matters most.
That is a good point, Whitney, because I even last year, or gosh, it was earlier this year, I was on a Cal Newport kick, and I, like, read all of his books, like, straight I don't even remember, like, it was, like, Deep Work and, Digital Minimalism and So Good They Can't Ignore You. I don't even remember, like, I just went and I was just, like, so much great information. But then I was like, "Okay, you have to pace your reading with your ability to implement, otherwise the reading is kinda useless." And so that's I actually was like, "Okay, let me just kind of, transition from books to, like, small implementable, like, bite-sized articles that I can implement for a little bit." And so just kinda knowing that, like, and I feel like I go through different seasons where I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready for the next big book to challenge me," and, things like that. And then sometimes I'm like, "I don't need any more information." It's like analysis paralysis. Like, I just need to sit down, like, do something, like, move the business forward and focus on something. And so then it's just kinda knowing, like, okay, what are those needle movers for the business? Let me focus there for right now. Just take some baby steps on those things, and then slowly reintroduce some new and outside ideas that can help. But yeah, if you're not careful, it's like there's so many ideas out there that it's like, I don't know where to go with this. So, and that's where, like, for us on the marketing side of things too, where we especially see it just because there's so many different ideas, so many tools you can use, so many, like, definitive opinions on how you should be doing, exactly what you should be doing, that it can get overwhelming pretty quickly if you're not careful. So once you kind of live in the landscape a little bit, you can start to pick up on patterns though and see, oh, that's another one recommending that or another one recommending that. So, um, but especially when you're new to something, it's just like a lot of information that all seems like equally critically important right now. So yeah.
That's so true. Or I run into when I was, like, coaching entrepreneurs, I ran
Hmm.
into so many of them, um, wanting more certifications, more courses, like, never feeling ready, and it's like, to your point, read and then implement, and then
Hmm.
read and then like, find the balances of listening, but acting in it and not
Hmm.
just constantly consuming and letting the
Yeah.
fear of, like, "I don't know how to do this," stand in the way, and it just becomes a flywheel of learning, and there's no actual implementation that drives the business forward.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think probably a good, like, guideline on that would be, like, 80% of your day needs to be stuff that's driving your business forward and that what's bringing in the revenue. And then, like, 20%, like, professional development, where's the industry going, how do I wanna evolve my services? But I think a lot of people do kinda get that wrong because it's easier to, like, read a book or an article than to go out and talk to people or put together a sales pitch and, like, see it, just kinda see like, "Hey, can I win this one?" It's like, that's scary, and so yeah, just making sure you get the right balance there is really important.
Yeah. Okay, I have maybe 2 more questions for
Yeah,
you.
go for it.
It's relatively high level. So, you mentioning that, I think one of the things I've struggled with, and I hear this from a lot of people, is as an entrepreneur, your brand is now you, right? Like used to when we worked in corporate or different entities, we were part of a brand, a company.
Yeah.
And so when you transition into entrepreneurship, it feels like everything I do almost feels directly connected to my integrity or my identity. So as you brand and help people like kind of maybe distinguish that, what advice would you give there of like it is part of who you are? Because as a solopreneur especially, like you are the sole one running the show, but it also is not your identity. It's just
Mhm.
a form of being able to show up and use what God's gifted you to do. Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, so there's a couple pieces that you touched on there. So yeah, that is something as a it's like you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into this business, and it's very easy for it be all consuming, and it's your identity and your self worth and your value, like sinks or swims with your or with your business. And so it's really like as a Christian, it's really important for me. My identity is not in our business and how well or not well the business is doing or in like positive client feedback or negative client feedback. Like that's not my identity. And so just remembering to keep that separate is so important. I feel like I need regular reminders there. Like it's not a one and done. Like, okay, I know what the right answer is, but am I actually operating in line with that? That's a different thing where I just gotta, have regular checks there in place and accountability. So that's one thing I would say is yes, the business, it's your name, it's your personal brand, and from an integrity standpoint, you want to make sure that you're doing fantastic work for your clients. And that's where for me that piece of like trusting and training and equipping a team was really hard because I'm like, if you mess up, that's on me. Like that's my name. Like, and so learning, okay, well, how do I make sure that I'm setting our team up for success and then letting them operate in line with their God-given gifts and celebrating that with them. But that was like a really big paradigm shift for me. But as I've done that, it's actually been really, I think, helpful for me to further separate my personal identity from my identity as a business owner, and from the business, because it's like it truly is a group effort. Like I'm like I can't take credit for all this. It's like, and so that's where just keeping training and trusting and empowering a team really helps you continue to kind of separate. Like okay, this isn't just me. Like I can't take credit for this. And so that's been I think that's made it a little bit easier along the way as opposed to if you're a solopreneur, it's like it is just you, and so it's a little easier to just get overly wrapped up in it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. Was there anything we haven't covered yet? You're like, oh, I would love to mention this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, one thing I would say, is as we've helped small businesses, like, one of the things like, my husband, Paul, comes from a small business family. We love seeing small businesses succeed, like, that's just something we're both passionate about. Obviously, our own business succeeding, but our clients' businesses as well. And so, I just, I say this a lot. I think it's after reading Simon Sinek's Start With Why, like, why are we doing what we do? And we're like, when small businesses succeed, our families, our communities, our country are better for it. And so it's like, how do we help small business owners? Like, they're the most hardworking people you're going to meet. Like, how do we help them be successful? How do we give them just a couple less hats to wear? Like, they might not get down to one hat, but just maybe a few less hats to wear. How do we make their life easier? How do we help their business be more successful? How do we help them bring clarity when they need it? How can we just be a friend to them and just be a sounding board and a friend and somebody they can jump on a call with and kind of talk shop? Like, and so, anyways, I'm kind of going down a little bit of a rabbit trail there, but that's the thing. That's really, yes, the tools we used are logo design, website design, and marketing. But, as I shared at the beginning of this, those have evolved over the years. We couldn't have guessed where we'd land. Maybe there's going to be more tools down the road that we evolve into for our clients. But the heart behind it is always just how do we help these small business owners succeed? And so, that's where, if there's anybody listening that needs help with that, I would love to just jump on a call and kind of chat with you. And, at the very least, hopefully it's just a fun conversation. But if it's something where we can help you, we'd be happy to do that as well. We're working with a lot of clients into next year where it's just, let's come alongside you for, 6, 12 months and help you get from here to here. And that's always a really fun process for us when we can do that.
That's awesome. So how do they get in touch with you? If they're like, "Yes, this is me. I
Yeah.
want to work with you." What would be their next step?
Yeah. So two things. First thing, you can just visit our website. So dayordesign.com. Again, Dayor is just the word road spelled backwards. So go to our website. That's where you can kind of see more about how we help businesses like yours. You can meet our team, everything like that. It's easy for you to contact us through the website. Also, if you want to kind of bypass the website form, you can just email me at hello@dayordesign.com and I'll take a look at that. I can send you a link so that we can schedule a call. I'd be happy to chat and just kind of learn more about your business and how we can help you.
Perfect. And those will be linked in the show notes as well, so they can scroll below and capture all of that information. So, thank you so much for being a guest today and just sharing all of your insights and being a friend. It
Yeah,
really is a
this has
joy to
been
get to
fun.
know more people. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this has been great. Thanks again for the opportunity, Whitney.